as I'm concerned, the 1933 King Kong is one of the greatest films ever made, and it still holds up today. And that's what this video is all about, is me making a plea. Go watch the 1933 King Kong. This movie is the brainchild of Edgar Wallace, Ernest B. Schutzak, and Marion C. Cooper. Released in 1933, nothing like this had really been seen before. There were other stop-motion movies, like Willis O'Brien, who did the special effects on this film, also did The Lost World, which took place in London and in South America. Now, that movie also very impressive for its time, but Willis O'Brien really mastered his craft in this movie. The amount of special effects that were just invented for this movie is mind-boggling. It's kind of like, how did they figure out early math, you know? It's like, easy to learn math now because the groundwork's already been done, you just get taught the equation, but how did they actually figure out the equation? That's the kind of thing that you have going on in this movie, where you'll have scenes like this, where we have King Kong inside of his cave, we have a live-action Jack Driscoll, a live-action Fay Wray on the other side of the screen, live-action Smoke, you have this insane depth of field with a matte painting in the background, and then you have stop-motion King Kong acting in front of it all. Like, there's so many different film techniques going on in this one scene, and then they also have him fight another dinosaur, as if everything else going on in this wasn't enough. And there's so much effort put into just people walking through the jungle. They would have panes of glass put in front of the camera, and they would paint on it the foliage, so there'd be kind of this really primitive 3D effect, and it looks really appealing. They would sometimes do things like take frames of a live-action actor and insert them into a stop-motion scene frame by frame. They would also do rear screen projection. In fact, if you're really interested in early special effects, there's a fantastic documentary on the film included on the DVD and Blu-ray. Peter Jackson also took the time to recreate a lost scene from this movie, the Lost Spider Pit sequence, which you can also watch on the DVD and Blu-ray and find online fairly easily. And you would think that being such an innovative film and being the first film to really attempt all these special effects, it wouldn't hold up super great. And I think it does. I think it absolutely holds up. And I don't really mean in a it looks real sense. I mean in that the special effects fit the world. Kong himself fits seamlessly into the rest of the scenes. It doesn't look awkward like early green screen and early CGI, where it doesn't really look like it's there. There's kind of this uncanny valley effect. The amount of effort that went into creating just the sets and the world and the things that Kong interacts with, he looks like he belongs. So you're never really taken out of the movie because, oh, this is obviously a special effect. No, you're constantly like, oh, sure, giant monkey, yeah, this makes sense. Dinosaur, yeah, it all looks like it's supposed to be there. I mean, there are exceptions. There are some scenes where Kong kind of clips through some of the foreground. But I digress. Like, to anybody who's not looking for it, the special effects meld with the live action stuff seamlessly. And I do think old special effects have their charm. Sure, you could argue that Kong doesn't look like a real monkey. He doesn't look like a real gorilla. But I think it has its place. I think it's just a different style, the special effects, you know? I think it would be like saying that anything in 8 or 16-bit graphics in a video game is bad and out of date. No, it's its own style, you know? Kong doesn't have to look one-to-one like a real ape. It's kind of part of the fantasy. So the special effects, fantastic. I love it. My next point, the music. Oh my God. The soundtrack, while maybe not as iconic, I don't think anybody's gonna be walking down the street and then be like, do I hear the King Kong theme playing somewhere? No, you know, like, it's not quite like Star Wars where you hear the and you go, oh, it's fucking Star Wars, sure, yeah. You know, it's not quite like that. Maybe back in the 30s and 40s, people would be like, oh shit, Max Steiner, what up? But not today. That being said, I do think that as far as syncing a score to the action and the music complementing what's happening on screen, this might be the most perfect soundtrack and score. It's insane. They're syncing up beats to fucking footsteps. They're syncing up music to Kong's curiosity and fiddling with things like when he's tickling Anne, there's like a little it's literally amazing. And when you're watching the movie, really pay attention for how little actions and little quirks that people are doing, like when people are running and the music's like really picking up and it's almost matching the pace with them. Or when it's slowing down and there's a calmer moment. Like, the music is just It's on point. It fucking goes hard. The music is perfectly paced, which is the other strength that this movie has. It is probably, and I just said that it's like the most perfect soundtrack syncing to the actions on screen. I'm about to say that it's the most perfect example of something else. King Kong has got to be the most perfectly paced movie ever made. Find me a better one. Maybe Seven Samurai, because that movie's 3 hours long and it feels like 20 minutes. Like when you're done watching Seven Samurai, you're kind of just like, all right, cool, so it's probably like lunch now? You know, I started this movie at like 11, it's probably like lunchtime now? Nah, it's almost 4. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked there. King Kong, perfectly paced. There's not a moment in this movie where you're checking your watch, you're looking at the door, you want to check the runtime. If you have to poop, you're probably just gonna hold it. Like, it starts off intriguing you. I don't want to say the beginning's slow, but everything that happens in the beginning is all just set up and introducing you to people, and it's building your interest. And then when you get to the island, you kind of have this haunting mystery element where you're like, ooh, it's foggy, what's going on the island? And it's kind of exciting, you know, you feel like you're on an adventure. And then Anne gets kidnapped. And the panic sets in. And then when Anne gets grabbed by that monkey in one of the most iconic scenes in all of cinema, you're on a roller coaster for the rest of the movie. It doesn't stop. Like, you don't even get a chance to breathe. You're just going through the jungle. And even when it slows down a bit, when they're looking at this shot stegosaurus, you know, sure, that feels like a slow moment, but this is still this fantasy world that you're exploring for the first time, and you're just taking it all in. And then the chase is on, and the log scene, and then the fight in the cave, and then the run back to the village. It doesn't let you breathe. It's non-stop excitement. And dude, I'll fucking say it, the log scene is still one of the best action scenes in movies, period. This shit goes hard. And I mean, it's good in the other King Kong movies, don't get me wrong, I like it, but I think it's something with the music and the pace that just makes this one work so well. It's simplistic, like, it doesn't have, you know, haze getting fucking chucked against the cave wall or chasm wall like it does in the new one. It doesn't have the Tommy gun shooting in the new one. It doesn't have the spider pit sequence. Honestly, the 70s one is pretty mid. But my point is that in this one, the music and the panic that you're already feeling up to this point, it doesn't need all that extra shit. It's just exciting in itself. And this is a point where I do want to mention again the Lost Spider Pit sequence, which I talked about a little bit earlier. And I know that it's kind of like a holy grail in terms of lost footage, but I am glad it's not in the movie because the pacing is so on point, I can't imagine anything being added or taken out. But I would still love to see it one day. For a early 1930s movie, which makes it an early talkie, you'll be happy to know that the dialogue is fresh as ever. It's snappy, it's quick, it's a lot of fun, it's clever.
Beauty and the Beast, eh? Well, now, I never thought I was good looking.
And the actors do a fantastic job bringing the dialogue to life. Carl Denham and Ann Darrow are iconic thanks to performances from Fay Wray and Robert Armstrong. They're next level. Like, Fay Wray as Anne is so charming and likable and like instantly charismatic that you just instantly fall in love with her. I think it's fair to say that some of the stuff in this movie is a little bit dated.
I think this is awfully exciting. I've never been on a ship before.
Well, I've never been on one with a woman before.
I think it's fair to say that some of the dialogue is misogynistic, and that might be a turnoff for some people. But I think the movie is more self-aware than most people give it credit for. I think Ruth Rose, who contributed to the screenplay, had some important input in making Anne's character not a one-dimensional woman that was honestly quite common at this time in film. There's moments where her enthusiasm and excitement is so contagious that you can't help but share her sense of adventure.
I'm going ashore with you, aren't I?
You bet. I wish we'd left you on the ship.
Oh, I'm so glad you did.
And there are moments like this, which is one of my favorite parts of the film, where Anne is clearly being sarcastic and keeps up intellectually with Jack.
Anybody'd think I'd been in a lot of trouble. I haven't. You can't say I've been one bit of trouble to anyone. Have I?
Sure you have, sure you have.
I don't see... Well, how?
Just being around's trouble.
Oh, dear, and I thought everything was going so nicely.
I find that line hilarious. It's a lot of fun, and it goes to show that Anne is smarter and wittier than a lot of women were written back in the 1930s. And one thing I'm happy to say is that each iteration of King Kong, each time it's remade, the Anne role has continued to improve. That being said, I still love Fay Wray just because of how talented an actress she is. And Robert Armstrong as Carl Denham is just cheesing the entire movie.
I'm
going out and get a girl for my picture, even if I have to marry one.
Look at the energy here. Like, he's chewing the scenery, and it's
It's money and adventure and fame. It's the thrill of a lifetime and a long sea voyage that starts at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning.
He steals every scene. I completely understand why they chose him to be the lead in the second film, Son of Kong, which, funny enough, came out the same year. And I don't want to sell short the supporting actors either. Bruce Cabot as Jack is great. He's charming. He's a little bit sexist.
I guess you don't think much of women on ships, do you?
No, they're a nuisance.
But if you can look past that, he's a softie. I don't think he's as show-stealing as his Jeff Bridges counterpart in the 70s film, but I definitely take him over Adrian Brody any day of the week. And just because I want to mention him, Frank Reichner of Dr. Cyclops fame is really good as Captain Englehorn. And despite what you may think, because it's a giant monster movie, it's not just a B movie. It's not just a giant monster movie. There's actually a lot to analyze here. For instance, some people have analyzed that this movie might be an allegory for the treatment of African Americans. Take a look at this scene from Inglourious Basterds, which I think beautifully suggests this concept.
Ich habe Amerika besucht. Der Besuch war für mich nicht von Vorteil. Aber die Schlussfolgerung liegt nahe, dass es für jemanden anderen von Vorteil war. Als ich aus dem Urwald nach Amerika kam, fuhr ich da mit dem Schiff?
Ja.
Geschah die Reise gegen meinen Willen?
Ja.
Auf der Schiffsreise lag ich da in Ketten.
Ja.
Als ich in Amerika ankam, wurde ich da in Ketten zur Schau gestellt.
Ja.
Bin ich die Geschichte des Negers in Amerika?
Nein.
Also dann muss ich King Kong sein.
Interesting analysis as it may be, I do want to say that it's obvious that comparing or using a monkey/gorilla as an allegory for African Americans has aged horribly. So yeah, there's a lot to look at beneath the surface, as well as just enjoying the face value entertainment that this movie provides. All that being said, I love this movie. It means a lot to me. When I was growing up, I was really into monster movies and dinosaur films, and something really clicked with this one for me. Maybe it was the fact that Carl Denham was making a movie in the movie that really kind of lit the spark for me, but I often credit this film as being the movie that made me want to be a filmmaker. I remember renting it from my local library and just being fixated and being fascinated by it. And then years later, my mom buying me the special edition tin DVD for my birthday when I was probably 10 years old, 11 years old maybe. And it just blew my mind again. And then I went through all of the bonus features, rewatched the remakes, and it just holds a special place in my heart. I get super nostalgic for it. I still get fucking choked up at the end when that monkey's fighting the planes. And I love it, and I think you might too. I know some people, black and white's a tough hurdle to get over, but if you can look past that and just enjoy it for what it is, there's a really fantastic movie there. Truly one of the greats ever made. So thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you feel like it. I've got more videos in this style coming up soon, as well as more weird Canadian kid shows, some more Having a Chats with Dakota, etc. Thank you for watching.